Today we're visiting the timeless New Jersey house of Shannan Haupt, a content creator who has turned a centuries-old home into a warm, soulful retreat. Built in the late 1700s, the house carries layers of history that Shannan has lovingly uncovered and preserved. Every brick and beam holds a story. Shannan's style embodies a cozy, rustic charm, from the exposed brick fireplace to her creative DIYs that tie in beautifully with the home's original features.
We have created the curtain system here. These are made from tobacco lath, and it allows us to kind of, where modern hardware would be a little bit tricky to outfit some of the spaces, because a lot of our rooms have beams right overhead of the windows, so there's not a lot of space to work with. So this is kind of a solution that I came up with to hang curtains but have it be a historic element to make it look like they were originally there.
Throughout the home, she's balanced preservation with creativity, reimagining each room in a way that honors the past while working for her young family today. The result is a home that feels collected over time, filled with warmth and intention. To watch Shannan's full home tour ad-free, where she shows off her incredible dressing room and upstairs hallway, scan the QR code on screen, or you can go to homeworthyplus.com to join, so you're able to watch ad-free episodes and receive other membership perks.
Hi Homeworthy, my name is Shannan. Welcome to our historic home in New Jersey. Won't you come in for a visit?
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we take you inside the world's most beautifully decorated homes and introduce you to the brilliant people who live there.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Liz Lang. Welcome to Grey Gardens.
Click the join button below to access all of our latest episodes ad-free and watch extended cuts of this and other homes, opening the doors to new rooms and exclusive content featuring our beloved hosts.
I can't wait to see, I'm so excited.
And if you're looking to shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy tastemakers, be sure to use the product links below or scan the QR code on screen to find fabulous furniture, coffee table books, and accessories that can transform your house into a home.
Hi, I'm Shannan Haupt. I am a stay-at-home mom of 3 boys, and I'm glad you're here. Welcome to my home. There's so many things about the home that I love, just the details that it has, the history and the heritage, and it's just amazing to just walk around and think about the history and all of the people that used to live here. And, you know, if the walls could talk, the saying is very true. And we just love living in the history and getting to add our own touches to it and have our own part of our story here during the time that we're here. So we've been here for almost 6 years this month. And when we moved to New Jersey, we're originally from North Carolina, and took us a while to kind of figure out where we wanted to be. And we found this home several years into us being in New Jersey, and we looked at several old antique homes. And this area really reminds us of North Carolina, where we're from. So we fell in love with the home, and we're glad this is where we ended up. Welcome to the formal living room. This space is one of 2 rooms that you could enter into the home. So they typically would have guests enter either through the formal, or we have a secondary door on the home as well with the double entry. What I love about this space, you come right into the corner fireplace, which was actually not original to the 1700s home. We're standing in the main body of the home, which we think was built sometime in the 1700s. So this was added after in the 1800s. So I love the corner fireplace. It's a beautiful statement piece. And we do not currently burn wood in the fireplace, but we do think the fireplace is functioning. It's the most recent functioning fireplace in the home. And I just love the details of it. It's a little bit more formal, where the overall home is pretty rustic. And I love decorating it, and I just kind of have my art up here, and I love to mix it up for the seasons as well. One of my other favorite features of the home are the original beams. And at some point, the ceilings were exposed. The beams were all covered in the home with plaster originally, but I love seeing the beams. And when we first moved in, the beams were stained at some point a really dark kind of Brazilian cherry red, and it looked different than the other beams that you'll see in the rest of the house. And what I'd like to do one day, we would love to restore them back to the original wood and kind of color correct that stain. But in the meantime, we painted them to restore light to the room. And there is a laser process that we'd like to do in the future that would restore it back to a more original color. But I love the lightness and brightness that it brings to the room. And like the beams, we also color corrected the floors, which are original. They are original wide planked yellow pine flooring, and it's through the majority of the main body of the home. And we actually hand stripped these floors back to the original raw wood color to kind of give it a more European feel. And I love how they turned out. It was a very painstaking process to do it by hand, but they turned out beautiful, and it adds a lot of warmth to the home. And I love how it contrasts with the historic white that we chose for this room that also is through the majority of the house. So we have this wardrobe here, which I love. Pine, raw pine is one of my favorite woods to work into the home. I love the warmth and the color that it brings to the space. I have a lot of wood tones in the home, which you'll find, but this actually hides our TV, so I can kind of tuck it away when I don't want to see all of the components in the TV and the unit. And I just love the details of the armoire, and it fits this spot really well. And we can kind of gather around on the sofa when it's family time and hide the TV other times. We just have, seating kind of gathered around the TV armoire, and just a little side chair. My kids love to sit here. This is their favorite spot. They all fight for a seat in the armchair. And then we just kind of floated our sofa in the middle of the room to give it a good viewing distance from the television when we're wanting to view. And then it also kind of creates its own little entry into the home from the front door. We had to do a makeshift entry. We have this buffet piece here, this hutch, which is from Olive Atelier. And it kind of allows us to have, a little bit of visible storage. I love open storage as well as closed storage, and can tuck some things in, gloves and things, hats, shoes, and keep things tidy or extra decor. And I just kind of have china displayed. I decorate a lot with china, dishes and teacups and candles. And I love, again, the warmth that wood brings to the home. So I have a lot of warmth with woods and baskets, and then I kind of offset that with my dishes. So when you enter the home, there's a built-in in this kind of small, shallow nook. And originally, as you enter the kitchen, there used to be an original corner built-in, which was removed at some point. The opening was kind of enlarged. So I kind of wanted to restore an original inspired storage piece or built-in back to the home, since we couldn't add it back to that spot. So we actually made this built-in out of free pieces of salvage that we already had. These parts of the doors, we actually received salvage pieces from a home 2 doors down from us, and we kind of made our own custom original inspired built-in to make it look as though it could have been here all along, and left the top with glass and for viewing. So we have a little bit combination of open storage as well as closed storage. And I love how it turned out. It's a very shallow depth, but it's very useful and functional for us in the home. And I love to fill it with my dishes again and teacups, or you could do books. So it's really fun to play and style and shuffle my collections around. So next to the built-in, we have this kind of featured wall. When we first purchased the home, there was a really fun kind of shiplap display, but the home, I kind of wanted to separate the home from farmhouse style. It's really more of a cottage, kind of European feel to the home. There's no shiplap elsewhere in the home. So we kind of took that initial feature wall idea and kind of expanded on it with the molding. And we kind of took cues from the fireplace design, which is reminiscent of the Georgian era, a little bit more simple ornamentation. So we kind of mirrored that with a Georgian style wall. So the moldings behind this piece is a really lovely backdrop to the home. And it's kind of fun because the dimensions, my husband who makes all of my ideas and my dreams kind of come to fruition, he kind of figures out how to make it happen, and I just kind of know what I want it to look like. So he did a wonderful job with this feature wall, and the measurements just worked out perfectly, kind of like it was meant to be in the home. And then these lights that we have also, there's 2 iron sconces. Those were actually from the same house 2 doors down, where we got some salvage pieces to create the built-in over here. They actually let me have these sconces from that house. So I really love that we have a piece of local history from that home that they weren't wanting to use. And I really love how they fit in this room. And we kind of just added like a back plate to support it. And it really just blends well into the feature wall that we created. Also on this wall, I have these chairs, which are a favorite of mine. I love the pattern. They're kind of newer to me this year. So these were from a place called the Cottage House, and they did custom upholstery, and they also did our sofa as well that we have floating here. So I love these pieces. It offers some extra seating or a place to sit to put on your shoes when you're entering the home. Mostly it ends up with a bunch of coats and miscellaneous items. So it's kind of nice to have additional seating to offer when we have more guests over, and kind of adds a lot of softness and contrasts all of the wood in the home. Next to the corner fireplace, we have an original built-in. The pieces that we've added to the home, we try to make it original inspired, but this was actually hidden behind this wall. And when I was researching the history of the home, I was trying to, find old listings and pictures just to see how the house has evolved and changed over time. And I actually discovered that there was a cabinet here. And so my husband, we kind of knew that we wanted to investigate to see if it was still there. So we poked some holes into the wall, and we could see with like a little camera that it looked like the fascia of the cabinet was still there. So he took the wall down, and we had some repair work to do on the doors, but it was mostly intact. So it was really neat to discover this kind of hidden treasure in the home and kind of restore it and bring it back. And it was like giving it back to the home a little bit. And it offers great storage, and it's filled with all of my additional treasures that I like to swap out and style the home around. And I just love, it's a sweet little cabinet, and it also inspired an additional built-in that we created that will lead into the kitchen next. Now we're entering the kitchen through the opening. So the built-in here kind of mirrors the one that we created and added. And I kind of love this area as like a little vignette. We have the butcher block here and it's just kind of fun to style seasonally. I do floral arrangements often, but it's also useful extra surface for entertaining or to place extra dishes on. So the left side kind of inspired the right side here. So this wasn't here at all. It was just the end of the refrigerator cabinets, and it was the smallest depth that we had to work with. But I found this is actually an old ironing board cupboard, and it's a very shallow depth, but it was just the perfect amount of space to be able to create additional storage for us for the kitchen. And we keep all of our glasses and things in here, or it could be used for spices and extra food storage. So it's been the most useful space that we were able to kind of create and add into the kitchen. And I love to hang little baskets on it, and it's really fun to kind of play with seasonally. But I love the storage that it gives us. The kitchen originally looked very different than it does today. It actually was very new build feeling. There was tile, it was cold feeling. It did not match the original heritage of the home at all. So we've kind of just over time deconstructed the kitchen and tried to kind of marry it back to the other historic parts of the home. And it's been probably the room we've done the most work in slowly over time, just trying to think through how we wanted the kitchen to look and feel and how to rejoin it back to the main parts of the home. So the floors were all tile. We ripped them up and it kind of added some reclaimed wood product. It's a Montana ghost wood product, and it's something that we found that looked historic. It's not actually flooring at all. It's actually barn wood that you use outdoors for like sheds or something. So, but it looked very historically thoughtful. So we used it as flooring non-traditionally, and it turned out great. We've kind of let it weather and wear to make it look like it's always been here. So that was one of my favorite things that we did to the kitchen to really transform the atmosphere and make it feel historic feeling. And so that warmed up the kitchen a lot from how cold it was previously. And it actually had a very modern traditional island. So we removed that island and kind of brought in a staple piece that I found on the Facebook Marketplace. And this has provided tons of storage for us as well, but it also is a nice gathering piece, and it's pine, which is my favorite type of furniture to add into the home. I love the warmth of it, and it gives us amazing storage in the home. And we swapped the light fixture for something a little bit more bistro inspired. It's just a single fixture here. So I found something that would give us more light, and it flanks the island really well. And I add a little softness with, these are actually mini skirts on top of the shades. They're a kid's mini skirt. So I like to add little English inspired touches, a little print. It's nice to add softness and prints to the kitchen where you can. Over this way, we've kind of kept this as it was. It was just a bay of really modern cabinetry surrounding the fridge, but we changed it out from the cabinetry that was here because the cabinets did not go all the way to the top. So we added cabinets to surround the fridge, but we utilized the space that was up top. In the before pictures, you'll see it was just kind of an unusable gap. So there's actually a hidden pocket up here behind the pictures that you can raise up, and it's a pretty deep pocket up there. We didn't want to leave any space unutilized in the home. It's always good to add storage where you can, especially in a historic home. So up there it'd be good to, tuck away platters or just extra things that you don't use all the time. So we kind of created this design from like old European kind of cupboards. I look for inspiration there. And instead of having just solid cabinetry like was here, we opted to do some curtains to add softness again, since we only have kind of one window in the kitchen. So it was a nice way to add some pattern, some color, and a little softness around the surround. And this door over here, we've added kind of recently, but it's one of my favorite parts of the home that we've done. This door, from the same home as some of the pieces that we got in the other room. This door came from that same house, 2 doors down. And so it was an original door that was on that home, and we kind of had it in our yard for about 2 years before we got to the project of being able to add it to the home. And it just adds a lot of warmth, and I left the natural color that it was. It kind of has weathered a little bit, but it has the original hardware, and it just really added so much life and atmosphere to the kitchen. So this is one of my favorite things that we've done. And we just added like a little light here. This amber shade I think I got for $4 from a thrift store. I don't even think it's for a light fixture, but I just kind of added it up there for a little bit of warmth as well. And then this part of the kitchen looks very different than it did when we originally purchased the home. And it took me a while to really figure out how I wanted this space to look and feel. We tried a couple of different things over time, and this is where we landed, and I could not love it anymore. Before, there was a lot of upper cabinetry, which we took away, and we added a beadboard cladding to the walls as well as the ceiling to kind of warm and envelop the space with a little bit of subtle texture. And we added this simple kind of colonial inspired shelf. My husband built this, and I kind of just, I wanted it to feel like one of the mantles in a different room. Some of the old pictures that I found of the home online had a kind of a similar mantle. So I kind of took inspiration from that for the design and kept it very simple and a little bit of elegant details with the corbels. And it's very useful, and it keeps the space open. And we gained a lot of storage in our kitchen island and the built-ins here that we added around the fridge. So we really didn't miss having the upper cabinetry. It was just a couple of cabinets. So we were able to add that storage elsewhere. And I love being able to have just a couple of things that we use up here. And it turned out really well. And also the cabinetry, we kind of did a little mini makeover on the cabinetry. It's the same cabinetry that was here in the kitchen when we bought the home, but instead of, we were kind of milling over, do we want to replace the cabinetry, or is there something that we could come up with and work with what's here? So we came up with adding a trim detail to, it was just a shaker style basic cabinetry. So we added a couple of trim details to the surrounds to kind of just give it a little bit more character, a little bit more of a feeling that it's been here a lot longer than it has. And that really helped kind of dial the clock back and kind of make it feel a little older. And then we painted the cabinetry as well. So that was a really simple, affordable, easy update that we did, and I love how it turned out. And so over here, the sink was not here. It was just a traditional stainless steel sink that was here. I found this on the marketplace as well for, I think, $200. So it's a double drain board sink, and it outfitted the windows here really well. And so we added it right on top of the countertops, and it works great for having extra space here for dishes and drying. I was afraid at first it would take away from the counter space that we had, but it works perfectly. And then the countertop also offers extra storage as well that we didn't have previously. So I love the drain board sink, and it's really kind of added to the kitchen and the overall feel to kind of dial the clock back and make it feel a little bit more heritage inspired. And then over here, this basically is the same as it was. There wasn't an upper cabinetry over here, but I found this antique cabinet also on the Facebook Marketplace, and swapped it out from the modern cabinetry, and I love that it's open and I can set up my dishes and teacups and things that I pull from. And I love that it looks like it also could have been here. It kind of just fits the wall so perfectly. It was meant to be, I feel like. So I love this part of the kitchen. And then over here, this wall was the perfect spot for my pine hutch that I have. And I love this piece. It's a really beautiful petite pine hutch, and it kind of fits this little nook here so perfectly. It's kind of tucked under this little lower part of the ceiling. And the original homeowners had the idea to put a cute beam here. So that's not original, but it looks original inspired, and I really loved that. So we've kept that and just kind of carried the wall detail around. And it's really fun to have a little extra space over here and storage that also offers visual storage as well as hidden storage, which is my favorite. So what drew us to the house is the age of it, the history, and most everything was done in the home. Renovation-wise, we didn't have to worry too much about major renovations, but we could add our own touches to the home. And we love the setting. The town is really just a sweet town and very set up like a European village. And we just fell in love with the street, the community, and just the home itself was amazing, had so many unique characteristics, and we could not wait to put our touches on it. So before we transition into the dining room, one of my favorite things about the home is the layout and the floor plan, because all of the rooms are connected, so the home has a really nice flow to it. And I love most that each of the rooms that we have visited or are going to visit, they could all be swapped around. So the room here was actually, we use it as a dining room, but it was actually the previous owner's living room. So I love that the rooms are all swappable, and it's really fun to do that because I do like to change things. But this is the room that we use as our dining room, and it's a really unique shaped room. But we don't know exactly when this room was added. The kitchen that we were just in was an addition in the 1800s. This room is on slab, so it's definitely more recent time that it was added. But I love the shed roof style, so the ceiling angle is really unique and kind of fun for the space. So I really saw it as a perfect room for the dining room because it's right off of the kitchen. So we added these French doors to kind of not formally cap it off, but just, you know, we can tuck the doors away when needed, or when we have extra guests over, like when my folks come up from the Carolinas, we can turn this into an additional room for them to stay in. So we have the doors for that, and just it kind of polished the opening out because it was really nothing here previously. So I love the French doors that we added. Also found those secondhand online. So the table is kind of a new addition. This table's from Olive Atelier, and I love the color tone of the table, and I have some chairs that I found secondhand to kind of outfit. So it's a good size for the room because it is a pretty lengthy room. So the table is great, and we can have additional chairs when we have guests. And I just have a candle chandelier. That's something about historic homes. They often lack storage as well as lighting fixtures. So I do use a lot of candles for decorating. I really only light them for photos or videos or when the kids are in bed. But they kind of work well for kind of a historic feel when we can't add a traditional light fixture. And then on this back wall, I've had this piece for quite a while, but I never tried it on this wall. So when we were kind of shuffling things around, I wanted to see if it would fit here, and it actually fits here pretty well. The span of wall, it's a pretty good length. This piece is a Georgian long table. It's from Canvas and Cargo. It's a really beautiful piece. It's oak, which is my other favorite wood type to add and work with in the home. And it kind of just outfits this back here, so it's great for entertaining, to place dishes on, and it's fun to kind of style. And this tapestry, I actually found this over the summer. And when I went back home to visit my family in North Carolina, and I got this for $50, which is amazing. And I love the color tones, sepia color tones, which I use a lot throughout the home. Little hints of pink or browns. It's my favorite tone to work with and add to the home. The home really loves the warmth of the wood and the warm tones. So that was a very fun piece to add. And it kind of barely fits this wall, which is a challenge with the angle of the ceilings, but it kind of really brings kind of a tapestry wallpaper feel. So I love this piece that we added. And then over here, we have these doors, which were also from that same home, a couple doors down. So this was salvage pieces that they weren't using and we're going to get rid of. So I'm very thankful and grateful that the contractor working on that property allowed me to keep some of this history local. So these doors were in their pantry. It's a kind of a Georgian style home. So they had very tall ceilings, so they're pretty big, but they work really well for here. And I've hung them on a sliding system because I didn't want to alter the height to fit our doorway. I kind of wanted to keep the original doors intact. So we kind of came up with this hanging system, and it flanks this opening really well that leads into the laundry room. So I love this original piece that we could add to this part of the home where there weren't a lot of historical elements originally, so it kind of added to that. And then my favorite piece in this room, this hutch has been with me for a really long time, since we first were married. This hutch is a piece that my father bought for us when we got married, and it's been in every home that we've had. That was kind of one of the factors that we had to consider when looking at homes, is where would this piece fit, because it's pretty tall. So it fits in here very carefully, and it's kind of nice to have all of my overflow dishes that I keep in it. And it's a really sentimental family piece, which means a lot to me. And I love having it here, and it really kind of accentuates the height on this side of the room. So this buffet piece kind of tucks nicely in this corner, and also additional storage for us right off of the kitchen, as well as a nice place to have dishes for entertaining. And I decorate a lot with dried florals, which I have all over the house. I leave them out seasonally. It's my favorite thing to use for decor, since we don't have a garden yet. Access to florals are limited, so I love dried florals, and you'll see that all throughout the house. And then the windows as well, we have created the curtain system here. These are made from tobacco sticks, tobacco lath, and it allows us to kind of, where modern hardware would be a little bit tricky to outfit some of the spaces, because a lot of our rooms have beams right overhead of the windows, so there's not a lot of space to work with. So this is kind of a solution that I came up with to hang curtains, but have it be a historic element to make it look like they were originally there. So that was a really good solution. So you'll see more of those throughout the house as a way to hang our curtains on this peg rail that we made. So the flooring that we started with in the kitchen, we continued it here into the dining room as well to kind of create a continuous flow. And we also carried the same flooring into the laundry room, which is through this doorway. All of the spaces in my home have been the favorite, but this one has seen a big transformation as far as what it looked like when we purchased the home. So we actually started with adding storage to this room. This was just a blank wall. There was nothing here, but you'll see when we turn the corner, there's an original antique staircase in the home. And so I kind of knew there was maybe potential for storage with a hidden pocket under the stairs. So this was one of the first projects that we did when we moved in to add storage for our family. And this door was left on the property in the basement. So it's original, we think. We're not sure exactly how it was used in the home. So we just kind of added it here, and it created a nice little closet for, you know, extra storage. And this has been really helpful to our family to add storage because historic homes typically don't always offer the most storage. So that was project number one. And I love how the wood on the door is kind of weathered, and I love the coloring that it is. So I just kind of left it as is, sealed that in. And it's a really sweet little view when you're coming off of the sitting room. So we added the flooring in here, like I said, and something we've done recently this year was opened up the ceilings and exposed all the original beams. So this part of the home was also an addition that was added in the 1800s. So it's kind of a slant roof addition, a shed roof style. So the ceilings and the floors slope ever so slightly, so you may be able to tell. So all of this was covered in plaster originally. And at some point, you know, previous homeowners uncovered that because originally they were all covered in plaster. And so I love how much historical charm, how much atmosphere that just taking the plaster ceilings down added to this room. So I love being able to see that structure and the original beams. So it really helped make this laundry room, which was very utility, it had no original charm or historic character, kind of like the kitchen. So we kind of reinvented this space to also make it feel original, inspired to the rest of the historic home. And it just turned out to be one of my favorite rooms because I spend a lot of time in here as a mom of three. So making the laundry room really beautiful helps me enjoy spending my time in here. So one of my favorite built-ins that we did is this cupboard here, which is not original to the home. My husband, bless him, he crafted this completely custom piece and kind of created it out of scratch. So I kind of had an idea with how I wanted it to look, but we actually found a free piece of furniture online on Facebook Marketplace. It was a very large piece, but it had these leaded glass doors. So we kind of used the wood from that piece to craft and construct an original inspired built-in. So the doors were the main focus of that, the leaded glass, and everything was wonky and custom. All the measurements, nothing in the house is level. So this was kind of a very challenging built-in for my husband, but he did a wonderful job. And I kind of wanted it to not look super perfect. I really wanted, just like the home, we embrace the imperfections with the historic home. So it just is wonky and imperfect, and I love that about this built-in and how it turned out. And it adds a lot of storage for us. So previously it was just the back of the fireplace, which you'll see in the next room. And it was just a shallow depth, and we constructed shelves and then created the surround from that piece of furniture that we used. So again, it has nice storage, visual storage for decorative and pretty things, but then also has some hidden storage, which is really helpful to have and tuck things away that you don't want to be seen all the time. So love this piece. It's one of my favorites. And then over here, we also kind of recently finished this project, which I've wanted to do since we moved into this home. With the laundry room being on the main floor and kind of in the guest spaces, I kind of wanted to enclose the units since they're kind of out in the open in this room. Also, a little powder room is right here, so when guests come through, I kind of wanted to kind of tuck away the units so that you don't see them, as well as have a nice work surface, and then socks and things no longer fall behind the units. So we kind of created this from scratch. So the units are tucked in and added a curtain to conceal and adds a little softness to the space as well. And then this hutch top piece we've had pretty close to when we moved into the home. It was something I found for $100 on the marketplace, and it fit this spot so perfectly. I had the idea to use this hutch top as a laundry cabinet. So it hides all of the things, a little bit of display, and it's a nice wooden piece that we've always had in here. And now it fits a lot better since we took the ceilings down. We gained a lot of height by doing that, so that's kind of nice. So instead of barely fitting into the space, I can now tuck some baskets up top as well. And it just is really functional for our family and looks really beautiful as well to kind of tuck everything away, because I spend a lot of time in here as a mom of 3. And I also have this table in here. Is a vintage find, and it's additional work surface, or if I'm spending a lot of my time in here, I can come in here and sit and read a book, have a cup of tea. So I really enjoy spending time in this room now that originally just had no character whatsoever. So over here we have kind of a hutch piece. Again, it was a find that just kind of fit the spot. I saw it on the Facebook Marketplace for $20, and it's a very shabby piece, very wonky, kind of French bistro style hutch. A lot of imperfections, but I embrace that and love that, having pieces that have a lot of character in the home. So I fill it with my teacups that I use a lot to decorate with around the house as well. It fits the spot so perfectly, very shallow depth, which tucks nicely for the space in the laundry room. And that kind of leads us up to the back stairwell. So this is kind of a fun, quirky thing about our home. Oftentimes these antique stairwells, it's not a true Jersey Sidewinder, but it's a really kind of fun, very steep and precarious staircase. A lot of times they're removed from the homes to add additional space or rework rooms. So I really love that it's still here in the home, and it actually leads up to our closet and dressing area that leads into our room. Originally, we're not sure what this part of the home was used for. I kind of think they used it for overstay guests that were passing through, because the town was a trading route town. So I think they added it for extra space there. But it's a fun little staircase. My kids love to go up and down it. I not so much all the time, because it makes me nervous because they're very steep. But it kind of leads up into the closet area where our bedroom is. So my personal style is kind of rustic, a very rustic base, and a little bit of romantic, elegant touches, but I really wanted to go for a lived-in style, something that's really comfortable and cozy and you can walk into and just relax and just be a safe haven for us to come home to. So if you step right up here with me, we can go and check out the bedroom. This is our primary bedroom, and this space has remained mostly the same, but one of my favorite things that we did was restore the fireplace, which originally looked very different when we moved in. It was actually all plastered over and covered up, and I had an inkling to check to see if the bricks could be exposed, because I had seen that done in other homes, and it was a little bit of a risky renovation for us, but it worked out really well. So we uncovered all of the original brick that was underneath the horsehair plaster, and we added a very rustic mantle, and this was a piece of salvage wood that was just on the property, so we repurposed it and it fit the mantle really well. So we cut that down and kind of made it fit to size. So I really love that part of the addition. And something fun about this fireplace, kind of like in the living room downstairs, there was a cabinet that was hidden. So when I was looking at the original photos, the earliest online listings of our home, we saw the tiniest little snippet of a cupboard door that was left open in the listing photos. So whoever left this door open, I'm very grateful that they did, because it was just from the doorway, a very tiny fragment of it was left open, and I saw the little edge of the door and I told my husband, I think that is a cabinet, another hidden cabinet in the home. So we kind of did our detective work to see if it was still intact, and we actually there was duct work here, which typically in old historic homes, they will run HVAC and utility up the sides of the fireplace to help conceal them. So we kind of took that back to the floor as a floor return and uncovered the original cupboard. And this part of the fireplace, we kind of had to makeshift our own cover for, because originally it was plaster with the slats. So we had a piece from a cabinet door that we took the door off to use as a panel front. And I was going to strip and paint it, but as I was stripping the door, I kind of loved the red tones of the paint that was left behind. So I kind of love that it tells a story of the history of the paint, and it kind of played into the warm red and orange tones in the bricks. So I kind of left it, instead of painting it, I kind of left it as kind of a rustic moment to kind of mirror the warmth there. So I love this sweet little warming cupboard. Originally, warming cupboards like the one downstairs that was hidden were used to warm up blankets by the fire. Now it holds my husband's unmentionables, but originally that's what they used them for. So it's great additional storage. We use every bit of storage that we have either created or found in the home. So it's really fun to uncover that and restore that piece back to the home, because those photo listings, I can't find them anymore. So I'm really glad I kind of did that detective work to try to find and see what the home looked like before additions and renovations were made. And at some point, the fireplace was converted with a wood burning stove. So I kind of had to come up with a solution, because this was kind of like covered with concrete. And since we took the plaster off, we had to figure out a solution. So I found an cast iron plate that they would use to put over the covers for wood stove converted fireplaces, and painted the backing black so that you can't see. And we were not sure if this fireplace is still functioning in the home. So we haven't had it inspected or anything, but I just kind of decorate the fireplace, kind of use it as an extra place for decor since we're not using it for the wood. And these, I just have my dried hydrangea flowers here. And then these are actually candles from our wedding, which we've been married 17 years, together for 23 years. So that's kind of a sweet sentiment element to have in the bedroom. And I just love how it's just an extra space to kind of tuck decor in and display dried floors, which I love. I'm sure you noticed that the ceilings in the upper level are a little bit lower, which is pretty typical in historic homes. So one day we hope, like the other areas of the home, we hope to take the plaster down and expose the original beams that should be up here and kind of add a little bit of extra height. So for now, it's very cozy feeling in the upstairs, and my husband barely fits in the home. So some spots you can almost hit your head on if you're a little bit taller than 6'1". So maybe the original homeowners were on the slightly shorter side, but it's a very cozy feeling with the ceilings, and hopefully we have room to improve that in the future. But you can kind of see the original beams. The details were kind of left open, which I love, and more of the curtains that I mentioned in the dining room. You can see that we don't have the most space to work with to add a modern curtain system or anything. So I love that it doesn't detract from the beams in the home, and it was a really good solution for us to be able to hang up curtains on the walls that are original plaster. So I wanted to disturb the original plastered walls the least as possible. So it was a really good solution for us. I just have my tapestry curtains, which I really love. I love the sepia tones and the feel of tapestry. So you'll see a couple of floral and tapestry pieces throughout the home. And then over here, we kind of added more storage as well with a cupboard. So this little nook had nothing in it previously. It's kind of leftover space from when they retrofitted the home for HVAC and utility, which is hidden in this part next to the fireplace. So they ran all of that up. So this was kind of the leftover space that we wanted to make useful. And the floors are all uneven and wonky in the home. So a lot of the places like this where we added built-ins, they weren't previously useful for furniture pieces because of the slope of the floor. So we actually had this cabinet was something that we already owned, and it fit the space really, really well. So we kind of just dropped it into place and kind of made it feel a little bit more built in with some trimmings. And it adds great storage, and it's really fun kind of nook that I can decorate seasonally. I hide all of my decorative books in there and some of my purses and things. So I really love decorating this little nook space, and it turned out really, really well, and I'm really glad we were able to utilize a piece that we already had, which is kind of how we've updated the home over time, and just making use of what we had on hand. And I think it looks really original and inspired, which we try to do and honor the home with any changes that we make. And then we just have a dresser piece here that's really beautiful. So where we added closet storage, we tried to make furniture pieces very functional as well as beautiful, to add storage for extra clothes and linens and things where the home doesn't always offer additional closets. Over here, this is kind of access to where the attic is, and my husband built a nice little pillow closet for the rest of the little nook over here, so we can kind of take the pillows off the bedding and tuck them away, or it would be a great additional storage as well for closet overflow. So all the little nooks and spaces we tried to utilize and make really functional for our family. And this is one of my favorite furniture pieces because it's a giant basket, which I love basket pieces. I have this storage trunk here at the end of our bed. So I love to decorate with baskets, and then I love having a basket texture in a furniture piece as well. It just brings a lot of warmth and great additional storage for seasonal clothes, and an extra surface for jewelry or to set things down on. And then on top of the basket, I have this tapestry, which I have a lot of in curtains and around the home. So I love, again, the tones and the warmth of this particular type of tapestry and coloring. And I use these tones a lot as a kind of a color theme for the house. and it plays nicely off of the historic white that we have throughout most of the home. So I pull a lot of inspiration from old books. I look a lot at homes of our era and just try to see how they used to do things, and Pinterest and online as well, at magazines, and just try to see how things were done and kind of pick and pull inspirations and if it applies, and try to kind of piece together our own version for the home. Now we enter into my favorite room of the home. This is the room that won my heart and sold me on the home. So when you first entered, we entered into the living room, which is right through this doorway. So there's actually 2 front doors to our home, which is a really unique feature. And it's pretty commonly found in the New Jersey and PA region. So the reasoning behind the double entry is you would often welcome your guests into either a formal space or an informal space, also for ventilation purposes. So this room that we're in now is where the second front door enters into the home. And this room was originally the home's kitchen. So this was the more informal space that you could welcome your guests into. And it's a really beautiful room. And when I first came to view the home for purchase, this is the direction that I came in. And this view with the fireplace just really won me over. So we have the main staircase that enters to the upstairs. Not sure if this is original or not, if it was a different shape at some point. We have suspicions that it maybe had like a curve, and we're not sure if this was always open to the next room. But it's a really beautiful room to walk down the stairs each morning, and we now use this as a sitting room, which I love. So the fireplace, this was originally called the keeping room, the home's kitchen. So the fireplace used to be a cooking fireplace, and which is why it has an exaggerated height. And it's really a beautiful feature. It's probably my favorite fireplace in the home. The mantle at some point was added. It had a little bit more of just a plain board mantle with a wood piece on top, which is what kind of inspired my kitchen shelf that we saw earlier. So the previous homeowners added this really rustic mantle, which I really love. And they also carried the rustic style to this doorway, which was added at some point. So this is not original to the home either, but it has the same style with the rustic wood surround. So this was just previously an empty pocket. The sides of the fireplace were open. And as the home was retrofitted for HVAC and utility, they ran the units up the sides of the fireplace. So with the leftover space, they created a closet, which is really nice for a historic home. So now it's a coat closet. So this door that was here was painted over in like a kind of a green gray color. So I stripped the door, much like we did stripping on the floors. I did the same technique, and as I was stripping it, it kind of showed all of the layers of paint over the years, the different colors that the door was painted. And I kind of paused in the middle of the stripping process because I kind of loved seeing peaks of all of the different colors that it was painted with over the years. So I kind of left it like this. And this is one of my favorite features and moments in the home, with all of those peaks kind of showing through. So it's great storage and a really pretty door, and I love to decorate it with seasonal wreaths. So this is kind of a favorite moment in the home. The fireplace mantle was already here. The bricks were actually painted over when we purchased the home. And I really loved the original brick and all the other areas of the home. And I had read that paint on bricks cannot be good for the bricks with breathing and ventilation. So I stripped the bricks back to the original color on the sides of the fireplace and then as well as the floor. So it was a very tedious, difficult process to do that, but it was really worthwhile. It added so much atmosphere and soul back to the room. The white was really pretty. I did enjoy it for a couple of years before we decided to do that. But hand stripping is not for the faint of heart, but it's a worthwhile process, and I actually have come to quite enjoy it. So that was another one of our stripping projects that we did. And then we added this peg system under here because at Christmas time I really love to decorate with the stockings, but I also have a really beautiful, sweet mini collection, a mini stockings collection that a friend of mine on Instagram made for me, for my boys. So it's kind of an advent calendar. So lots of little cute mini stockings. So I hung this, which I just found secondhand, and the dimensions of the pegs, it's actually 2 pegs, which I think originally were used for candle drying, but they just happen to fit the dimensions in this middle section under the mantle perfectly. So I felt like that was another meant to be moment, and I can hang my candles here, and also at Christmas time it's really sweet for that mini stocking collection from Penny and Ivy that she made for me. So that's kind of fun little ad underneath for hanging things. And then another built-in project that we did, which this is not original to the home. So like some of the other built-ins that we did around the house, we wanted it to be original inspired and honor the heritage of the home. So this was just leftover space, kind of like I mentioned upstairs. They ran utility up the sides of this fireplace stack. So there was just a little bit of a depth left over that was previously not used. So I had the idea to make a warming inspired cupboard, kind of like the other cupboards that we found hidden in the walls in the home. And so my husband crafted another built-in here, which is great for storage, but it's really sweet because these are doors, again, from that same house, 2 doors down. They let us go through the house and use a lot of the salvage pieces that they weren't going to incorporate back into the home. So these are the same doors that were used on the built-in by the front door that you saw when you first came in. So it's the same doors, but we used it to create this kind of candle cupboard here, which has all of my extra decor and trinkets. And it's a shallow space, but it's very useful. And I love having little places to tuck all of my treasures and favorite things. And it really made use of this otherwise awkward leftover space that wasn't being utilized at all. So that kind of inspired many of the built-ins that we did around the home for little areas that can't hold furniture or were otherwise not usable. It works great for extra added storage. And over here, we're still in the main body of the 1700s home. So this is the start of the 1800s edition, which is the laundry room that we visited. So this is one of the original exterior doors that was left after that addition. So it's a really large, heavy door, but I love that it's still here. They left it here. So it's nice when you're passing through and transitioning to the other areas of the home. But it's a really beautiful piece, and you have all of the original hardware that is found on the other front doors as well, and kind of helped us date the house since we don't know exactly how old the home is. We kind of have a range, and some of the locals have shared that our home was maybe one of the first ones built in the town. So dating some of the hardware style, the ironwork, and just the overall primitive construction of the house kind of helps us with dating the house. So I love the character and the details of this being left. So one of my other favorite little tiny details about the house, the floors all throughout the house, which these are still part of the original planks, but all of the transitions are also original, And you can just tell over time things are worn and weathered and almost smoothed into little grooves. So I love like the little dips and all of the wonky little details like the original thresholds that you can really see the age and how they've kind of weathered down over time. All of the creaks and everything. So over here, this piece is one of my favorites. I can't pick a favorite piece of furniture. I love furniture pieces, so I try to find really special, unique pieces for the home. So this is a 1700s pine crock stand, and I've never seen another one like it. It's definitely one of a kind, and I found it on the Facebook Marketplace. And what I love, it's a very sizable piece, but it's also very shallow depth. So it works on many areas and walls in the home. And it's kind of fun as a backdrop piece here. We've tried it in other areas of the home as well. But I love the scallop details and the history and the character. Similar pine as to the flooring that we have in the home, so it matches really, really well. And it provides little extra storage, but open storage as well, shelving for styling, which is really fun. So I just kind of have some more teacups, of course, which I love to decorate with. I collect tureens and china, which I decorate with a lot. And I collect lids as well, because I think they're very pretty, even though they don't have a matching base. And then I have up here my collection of baskets, which my collections are pretty kind of random and gathered, but I do collect the specific type of basket because I find them regularly around me, but I just love the woven lattice look to them. So I've accumulated quite a lot, but I use them not just for, you know, decor. I actually will take the baskets down, use them. They're fun for sorting activities with the kids. And at Christmas time, I'll take all the baskets down and put all of my ornaments that I'm going to decorate the trees with and sort them with the baskets. So they're very beautiful, but also very functional. So I love decor that you have form and function with. So I just kind of have them up here collected and waiting for use. And over here, this is kind of a cute little nook doorway. And like I said earlier, I love the floor plan of this home. It's one of the things that drew me to this house was the flow and how all of the rooms on the first floor are connected. So this kind of sneaks us back into the kitchen. So the flow is really easy to work around the house, but the rooms are still intimate and separated, which I love. So I love the cute little doorway here, an old antique door that leads down to the basement, which the home does have a half-standing basement, which is nice. And I kind of put an antique mirror here, but something really neat that you may see around the home on the floor, there's a lot of these patches with metal work. So some of the patches on the floor for repairing, a lot of times the floor will splinter on the edges. So one of the ways that they would fix that is they would either patch it with wood, or we have a lot of patches in the home of different types of sheet metal over the years. So this one's kind of colored with a little bit of red. There's a couple of other patches in the other living room. So I kind of love those kind of details. And you know, we have some repairs to make ourselves. So we're gonna work on our patchwork skills with tin, or maybe try our hand at some wood patches, because there are areas in the home where that was done as a correction. But I love how they look, and just add a little bit to the really rustic floor, which I love, and all of the creaks and sounds that come along with it. So this piece here, I've had this piece for almost the whole time we've been here. This is a really pretty French armoire, and the mirror is really useful as well. And I kind of love having this piece here, even though it makes the room really cozy and kind of tucked in. It's great storage, and it hides a lot of my decor, which sometimes I, you know, do little cupboard sales and I'll share. So it's filled, ready for my next sale. But it's great storage for treasures and things. But also I love the mirror aspect and how it kind of mirrors my favorite part of this room, which is the fireplace. So you get like little peaks of the fire when it's on and the candles reflecting. And then I also use it kind of to check and get ready before walking out the door. So this is a really beautiful piece that I love, and I love the little extra pop of darker color. I really love to mix all different wood types. I tend to mostly purchase oak or pine, but I kind of love throwing a little different wood type in the mix. So this is a really fun piece in the room for storage and beauty as well. So the seating in the room, we use it as a sitting room. It's really fun at Christmas time when the kids come down the staircase for Christmas morning. So the seating I kind of just gathered here. This is kind of a new arrangement to us. Previously we had a really lovely antique sofa that we kind of floated in the middle, but I really wanted to try this traditional kind of setup where the seating kind of flanks the fireplace, so we could get a couple extra seats in here for just hanging out and visiting, as well as the kids come in here. So I have these really fun ruffled romantic settees, which really plays into my style, as well as the style of the home with kind of an English feel. So we've really tried to play into that with the decor to kind of go along with the European history of the home. So I love the settees, and they kind of offset the delicateness of them from all of the rustic elements, the wood tones, the textures that we use for decorating. So it's a nice kind of contrast for that. And I kind of love this table that I found, which was kind of just, I saw it and kind of knew that it was the piece for this new setup that we did. So I found this marble table, and it's not coffee table height, but not full table height. It was just the right height, kind of a bistro table height for these settees that I purchased for the room. So it's nice. You can come in here, read a book, have a cup of tea. The kids can come in here and read a book or do homework. So it's a really nice space, kind of like a quiet space that's reserved in the home for us to just kind of visit and gather. And then at the holidays, it's really a gathering place for us because we have our tree in here. And this is the first room that you enter every time you come down the stairs, which I love since it's my favorite room of the home. I also added this chandelier. We don't have very many lighting fixtures in the house. That's why I use a lot of candle chandeliers. I love ironwork, but I've had this brass chandelier from our previous home with the hopes that I could find a spot for it here. So this was one of the rooms that was retrofitted at some point with electrical in the ceilings. They, at some point, drywalled in between the beams in here, and that allowed them to run electrical. So this is a functional fixture, one of the only functioning fixtures in the house outside of the kitchen. So I kind of supplement a lot with candles. I love candles and I burn them often. Also lamps, and we have the chandelier, of course, that works. And over here next to the mirrored armoire, just have like a little side table, another surface to decorate with. And then I have crystals, which you see a lot throughout the house. I love the element of the crystals for the same reason. Just to add softness and kind of a delicate contrast to all of the rustic wood tones and textures. So it adds a little bit of pretty and more candles, of course. And I love to decorate seasonally, just adding natural elements where the seasons apply. And that's where I use, colors throughout the season. I'll swap out curtains or pillows, add a blanket for pops of color when the seasons allow, or floral arrangements according to the season. I like to bring like natural elements from the outside in. So next to the second front entry, it kind of leads you back through the main living room where we entered the home. And so this was another area where they added utility and retrofitted the home for HVAC. So the bump out here originally wasn't here, but that's where they ran units to the upstairs. So to kind of soften it and make it feel a little bit more natural to the space, I just kind of added a little rustic coat rack, which my husband cut it in half to make it wrap and fit the corner. So we use this for coats and blankets. My kids will come home after they get home from school, hang up their backpacks. So there's just enough hooks here for that when I'm not using it for decor. And I think it adds a little bit more of that rustic touch and kind of make it look like it was purposeful and intentional in the space. So I feel what gives a home soul is the atmosphere. The home has a lot of heritage and character, but then adding your own touches really adds to the atmosphere. And luckily my style really plays well into the home and the style and construction of it. So we just really played into that and tried to honor the heritage of the home. Home is just a place of comfort, a place of rest, kind of away from the bustle of the world. And so I really want this to be a soft place to land for us and our family. And it just is really fun to be creative and, you know, play around the house and make it beautiful, and just some warm, cozy surroundings for us to come and relax at home.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.